Welcome to Watching the Horizon. I'm Jake. Going to be a slightly different video today. I had a chance to meet with a somewhat large group of preppers, and I feel like something's become sort of abundantly clear to me. There's a lack of foresight when it comes to the community of preppers in general. You're anticipating some sort of event, right? Some sort of financial collapse, or collapse of the government, or some sort of social reset or something like that. And I get it. Makes sense to me. I feel like a lot of the preps that are happening out there are sort of just for the immediate future. A lot of the stuff out there is just for the here and now, which is important. I'm not detracting from that at all. In fact, I will continue to go on, talking about things like food storage and water storage and, shelter and security, and what that means and what it looks like. And yes, that is a huge component, and I'm in no way trying to discount that at all. But what happens after the event? What happens after the collapse? Things like societal panic, looting, people going door to door looking for food because they're starving, people running rampant through the streets, chaos and pandemonium. I think that's a big fear, as a prepper in the community, regardless of what it is, what event that caused it to happen, whether it be like a pandemic, some sort of, virus outbreak. Of course, I say that because I'm getting over a cold, and man, it was a nasty one, so it's on my mind. But maybe the super volcano goes off or something, and things start to shut down. But your supplies are going to run out eventually. I mean, are you anticipating for that? Are you thinking that the government is gone? In whatever event that you're prepping for, is society as we know it done and over? What happens when you're 6 months of food storage, when you're 12 months of food storage, when you're 3 years, maybe you're super prepped and you've got 3 or 5 years worth of food storage? What happens when that runs out? Are you hoping that some sort of semblance of civilization is going to return by then? Are you banking on that? Are you just making that assumption? Are you assuming that government won't be back for a long time? That, it's going to be a new, dark age, that we've all been thrown back into, 1800s era, type of living and lifestyle. The point of this video is that it seems to me that regardless of what you think is going to happen, even people who think that this is going to be a long-term scenario, if some sort of event occurs and this is going to be a huge reset where we're all going to have to become farmers kind of thing, not very many people seem to have actually prepared for that actual scenario, even though they think that's what's going to happen. People are really kind of stuck in, the survival of the immediate event, the immediate reaction to whatever that event is going to be. Money would be better spent towards other things. So, don't get me wrong. I totally believe that security, super important. You'll get so much more bang for your buck if you were to invest those things into, skills or long-term preps. People are expecting some sort of complete government collapse. That whatever trigger, whatever event's going to happen, that there's going to be this complete shutdown of all public services. So that means no hospitals, no police, no interstate commerce, no travel. That's important because of food distribution. Because people who live in the cities certainly don't grow their own food, and if you don't have interstate commerce, you don't have distribution. I mean, people are going to starve. So they're assuming that it's just going to be a complete and total shutdown. And I submit to you that the reason why so many preppers are operating under this vision of the future, is it because that's what they want? Like, is this sort of the vision of the future because politically they're sort of done with where we're at right now, and so really it's what they're hoping for? I have a really big problem with this idea. All you conspiracy theorists out there, when it comes to getting things right, you're probably going to find this happen more often than not when it comes to something called the continuance of government. It's a very real thing. Look it up. The United States has gone through great effort and great expense when it comes to the continuation of government in any type of situation. You want to talk about secret bunkers? You want to talk about, societies and backroom deals and this and that and the other? Well, probably all of those things exist. And a lot of it is stemmed from the continuance of government. Worst possible scenario is for there to no longer be a United States government. And I would also suggest that it would be the worst thing for you as well, regardless of your political stance. There are many people, many enemies of our nation that would love to see us fall and would certainly take advantage of that if there were, some sort of breakdown. So all you people out there who think that, something's going to happen and there's no Congress anymore, there's no president anymore, that's actually a really bad thing for you. And that would be the worst case scenario, because this vision of all of a sudden you having to go out there and be this survivor out in the wilderness, that's an illusion. I think that this idea of having to survive in a world with no government is sort of this romanticized best case scenario that people wish for. I think it's actually going to be harder than that, because there isn't going to be this power vacuum. In fact, there's going to be this clawing, struggling, or maybe they're not struggling at all, but I certainly think that there's going to be a local and a national government in place. Maybe it's crippled, maybe it's not at its full strength, which is actually more dangerous for you. We enjoy our luxuries and freedoms because we have processes in place, because we have checks and balances, and we have the ability to hold each other accountable. But, in some sort of scenario where, things have broken down, those checks and balances aren't there. There's no accountability. There's no Twitter where you can hashtag and have some sort of social justice and the court of public opinion on your side. You know, if you're afraid of things like, you know, jackboot government, I mean, that's the scenario that you should be most fearful of. And I think that's very likely. And so not only are you going to have to survive the initial event, whatever that event might be, if there is, some sort of issue where it affects the government, or at least its ability to control law and order over this people, you're going to have to deal with that also. And I think that's going to up the difficulty level immensely, a lot more than maybe what you had anticipated. Okay, that was not a small rant. I apologize. I really got off topic there. But prepping for today, but are you really prepping for, you know, the future as well? And I think that as I mentioned before, that we're not putting enough importance. We're not putting enough weight on, you know, prepping for the long term. I mean, really, your supplies are going to run out. Your last bucket of food is going to get cracked open and you're going to go through it. And so unless you have put in place that longer term prep, i.e. growing your own food, people that I've spoken with, these preppers, you know, like for them, it's just a box that they check, you know, on this list. Oh yeah, long-term preps, yeah, I bought a seed vault. You know, it's in storage. And that's it. They're done. Like they think it's taken care of. They have no idea what they're doing, you know. They live in the middle of a city. They've never planted anything in their life. They don't have the skill or the knowledge to be able to sustain that garden long term. They just don't know how. They've never done it before. I mean, I've had a garden. I've gardened stuff. It's harder. There's losses. You don't ever get 100%, you know, crop. You know, you plant, you know, so many plants with the expectation that a certain percentage of those are just not going to make it, you know. But you're going to starve to death. It's just going to take a little longer. You need more than just seeds, I guess is my point. When it comes to, you know, long-term preps. You need tools, you need skills, you need interpersonal skills. Because if whatever happens is as deep and far wide, you know, as everybody fears, where there's no more, you know, local government, or at the very least, there's no more, you know, communication or services or you know, food distribution, then I don't think that you're going to be able to go back to the land on your own and be able to completely provide for yourself. You will have to be a part of a community. And I think that's just natural. I think those who are left are going to naturally form groups, or at least form relationships, you know, with groups. You're going to be forced to participate, either that or starve. If you join a group after the fact, I think you need to prepare yourself physically and mentally for what life is going to be like in this scenario. You're going to be forced to work, you know, labor, hard work. There's not going to be any office jobs, you know, in this scenario. It's definitely going to be more of a, you know, hand to mouth, you know, situation where, you know, you're going to be forced to, you're going to have to farm, and not this small scale garden stuff. I mean, you're going to have to work with other people. You're going to have to learn how to grow lots of stuff, because at some point, you know, your clothes are going to wear out. You're going to have to start making your own clothes. Out of what? This stuff doesn't actually last very long when you're, you know, living out in the bush, in the wilderness. Actually having skills is something that you can work on now. Learning how to sew, learning how to fabricate, learning how to engineer, learning, basic science, chemistry type stuff. My wife went to a class, it was one of these herbalist classes, where they were making, soap, which is great. They were making homemade cleaners, and they were mixing vinegar and baking soda and some sort of, essential oil to make it smell good. And my wife, she's like, wait a minute, if you mix vinegar and baking soda, which is apparently really popular on the internet right now as a cleaning solution, doesn't that cancel each other out? And the lady of the class said, no, that's just a myth. Guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but they cancel each other out. Anyway, it's just, common science, and I'm not talking about Facebook science. It's silly, it's stupid. This is going to be the caliber of what we're going to have to work with going forward. I guess in the end of the day, it's going to come down to what you think is really going to happen. Do you think civilization will return and then you'll be able to go back to your way of life before? Or are you actually going to have a plan in place? Are you going to learn how to garden? Are you going to learn how to build, how to use your hands, how to build something? It just seems interesting to me at the short-sightedness of so many people in the community. And I know that's a really unpopular thing to say. I'll probably get a lot of hate for it, but just honestly do a self-assessment of, anything that you've got as far as your preps go. What's the next step? What's the thing after that? What scenario is it going to take in order for you to be okay once your preps run out? And then consider what's the likelihood of that scenario actually occurring. What scenarios would occur where you would not be okay once your preps run out? It's a lot of speculation, no matter how you look at it. But I don't know. I don't feel like enough thought, goes into that. I suggest that we need to, do more classes. In this meeting of preppers I was able to hang out with for a while, I had made these suggestions for, these classes. Can we find people within our group that, know how to do some of these long-term things? And I'm not going crazy here. I'm talking about things like canning, basic canning. This is a country living skill. I don't even know if you can consider that a survival skill. I mean, I guess, but like just country living. And I was surprised at the pushback that I received, at the ridicule. People were so quick to, canning, what do you need canning for? And I'm like, what do you mean, what are you going to need canning for? I mean, that's probably half of all y'all's food storage, right? Like, how to can? Anyway, all right, I've gone on long enough. If you've made it this far, I mean, tell me what you think. Seriously, in your mind, in your scenario, in your world where you're prepping, how long do we have before either society comes back and things go back to, normal enough, or will that happen? Are you thinking we're going to go completely back to, 1800s, and if that's the case, you better have all of those other skills. Where did I go wrong here? Am I crazy in thinking the way that I do? Because it was definitely not a popular opinion amongst the individuals with whom I had a chance to discuss this with. So anyway, seriously, give me your thoughts. I'd appreciate it. Be sure to keep your eyes open.